This is how to look like an expert bookkeeper even if you're new. The first thing that I want you to think about is a lot of it is in your mind. So you're scared, you're nervous, you're insecure, you have imposter syndrome, you feel like you don't know what you're doing. So then therefore that's going to come across to a client or a potential client. But the more that you can fix what's up here, that is going to help a ton. So a few things to remember. Clients really don't care about how many years you've been a bookkeeper. They care 100% about the results. They care that you can deliver quality bookkeeping and help make their lives just a little bit easier. So all of your marketing should point to that. Anytime you talk to a client, you want to talk about these things, that you want to focus on that transformation that they will have. So their books will start out really chaotic and messy and stressful, and then you will help them get everything organized into like a calm, peaceful, beautiful state where they know what's going on with their finances. So practice this message and this story, this transformation story that they're going to go through. You can also bring the energy of an expert by doing a few simple things that seem pretty basic, but honestly, a lot of these skills are harder to come by than you might think. So first of all is be reliable. I've been in the workforce, like 20 years now, and I've worked with a lot of different people, and the people that were reliable are some of my most favorite and memorable and helpful people. So follow up when you say you're going to follow up, and clear communication is kind of like a parallel skill to this. So if you're running late or if the project is going to be later than expected, most people are going to understand that as long as you clearly communicate. Number two, what if a potential client asks about your experience, but you're like, oh no, I don't have any experience? My strategy is to be honest, but make sure you're highlighting your strengths. So you don't want to be like, oh, you're my first client, I don't really know what I'm doing. And you don't want to go into a whole long explanation about all of your fears. And you don't want to super duper emphasize like, you're my very first client ever. But you can talk about the training you've done. Say, I've invested in this bookkeeper training. I've been training for the last 6 months. I was able to do a lot of these practice things within QuickBooks. And then you can go on to explain why you are very well suited for this position. So I'm very detail oriented. When I was going through all my training in QuickBooks, I was like, oh my gosh, I love seeing how those things reconcile and how all the little pieces turn out so perfectly and every transaction is accounted for, and I am able to reconcile that at the end of the month. And I actually do have a whole video on this topic you can watch after this. The thumbnail has like a speech bubble. I think it's called What to Say If You Don't Have Any Experience. Another thing that's really key about experience is you do have experience. Maybe it's not as a bookkeeper, but if you were a student, talk about the projects that you did where you had to be detail oriented and you had to follow through. I had 5 years in a corporate job before I became a bookkeeper, so I actually had a lot of content to talk about where I, worked with people, where I ran a project. I could talk about times that I was reliable, times that I was organized, all these skills that translate really well into bookkeeping. And just a bit of encouragement, a very few of my clients asked what kind of training I had as a bookkeeper. I think like maybe my 5th client asked, what bookkeeper class did you take? Or how did you learn bookkeeping or something like that? And that was actually a bigger company, and I was interviewing with a CPA. So with, an accountant who knew what she was talking about. She already knew QuickBooks. So that was like a little bit more of an elevated job at that point, and I had some experience to go on. So most business owners, especially smaller ones that you may be starting out with, they don't know what it takes to be a bookkeeper. They don't know what training is required. Like, even bookkeepers have a hard time figuring out like, what training should I do? And if it seems like your client might be kind of hesitant because of your lack of experience, you can also offer to start with like a smaller project. So maybe they need the previous year cleaned up. Maybe you can just do that 1 year of cleanup. Or if they have a bookkeeper now who is moving on to something else, maybe you can do like one shadow day with the bookkeeper and, categorize all the transactions for a month, or do a couple of their tasks. You can try to think outside the box a little bit so that your client is really comfortable in hiring you. Number 3, I'm going to go through this one kind of quick because it might be obvious to you guys, but make sure you brand yourself professionally. So get a professional email address. Make sure you have a presence online. Usually that is a very simple website you can probably create for free. Oftentimes less is more on a website, so just make sure it's clean, clear, concise. It shows clearly that you're a bookkeeper and how to contact you. I have a whole video that goes through, I read the book called Building a Storyboard. Is that right? No, it's Building a Story Brand. And it gives really great tips on websites. So it's like have a big button twice, one at the top and one in the middle. That's the call to action, whatever that is. Maybe it's contact me, or maybe it's sign up for my email list. So you can check out that Story Brand video after this one. Next thing, make sure your visuals are consistent across, your website. If you have a LinkedIn, business card, whatever, you can make a simple logo on Canva, kind of keep the colors consistent. Like all this is pretty basic marketing, but just make sure you have the basics down. My website is FinePoints.biz. There's tons of free resources for bookkeepers on there. If you're at the point where you're looking for clients, I'd recommend the masterclass I have on my website. It's called How I Got My First 3 real clients, and I detail exactly how much they paid me, how I found them, what type of businesses they were. So that should help you out if you're in that stage. All right, next is how to talk about your services with confidence. First of all, you don't need to use like a lot of industry specific jargon. Oftentimes that ends up kind of confusing a client even more, or it makes you sound like not relatable. And so if you can just really simply explain things. So I kind of tailor my message to who I'm talking to. So if it's just like a random person who doesn't really understand bookkeeping, I just say something like, I help small business owners with their finances, keeping them really organized. If the business owner is digging in a little more and wanting to know like, what exactly do you do as a bookkeeper? Because some people really don't understand it, which is totally fine. I'll explain it like this. I'll set you up with a QuickBooks Online account, and from there, I link your bank website into QuickBooks Online. And then all of the bank transactions feed into QuickBooks Online, and from there, I'm able to categorize them. So you'll know exactly how much you spent on rent, how much you spent on utilities, how much you spent on office supplies, and then I'll give you a clear and concise report at the end of each month. And for me, one thing that really helps with confidence is practicing. So I am notoriously an over-preparer, especially for job interviews. I will practice with a friend. I will practice my elevator speech, which again, I have a video about elevator speeches. I'll link it in the description because I don't remember what it's called. I make like prioritized lists about things that I want to talk about, maybe a story that I want to tell, or the skills that I'm trying to emphasize for this particular client. I look up everything I can online, like on the client's website before I meet with them. So that just makes me look a lot more professional and prepared. I can be like, oh, I see you have 5 employees. So do you use a payroll company to pay those employees? How often are they paid? You know, you can kind of like have discussion points from information that you find on the website that relates back to bookkeeping. The other thing that'll help in talking to clients is remember to speak to their pain points. What problem are you solving for them? Are you giving them more time? Are they really stressed about their taxes and you're organizing stuff for their tax time? Are they wanting to expand their business and they're trying to figure out, you know, how do my finances look? Can I grow my business? So listen to them as they're talking to you and make sure you're speaking to specifically what they are worried about. Along with rates and services, I know this is hard to talk about. Sometimes like pricing is hard to chat with clients about, but they're going to want to know how much you cost. So come prepared with an answer. That answer might be, oh, I will do a review of your books and then give you a detailed quote. Or you can tell my clients usually range from about $200 a month up to $1,000 a month. And I have some videos about pricing too if you want to check out those. But just make sure you're prepared for that question to have an answer ready. Let's talk about some other ways to build credibility. So first of all, like I was saying earlier in the video, talk about certifications. So you've probably, maybe you got the free QuickBooks Online Pro Advisor certification that I talk about a lot. That is kind of a no-brainer if you're a beginner. Maybe you went through extensive program like Bookkeeper Launch. That's my favorite, linked in the description box. Maybe you took a different bookkeeper training. So that is experience, even if it's not working directly with a client. I've also been talking about the Acadian Gym, QBO Gym, so that gives you some experience. Technically, like they say, I think they say it's like a year of experience if you go through the whole program. So I think I have that linked in my description box, and I think I even have like a discount code you can use if that is interesting to you. So all of that education does count as experience. Also ask for testimonials. Testimonials you can put on your website. So even if it's like a volunteer project that you did for a friend, if you did a good job, have your friend write a testimonial. Maybe it's from a teacher if you were previously a student. That is legit. That is like a letter of recommendation type thing. So these things can be used as testimonials. It's not dishonest. They are commenting on real work that you've done for them. And then do try to document your process as you go along. I know this can be hard at first, but every time you send an email, think like, oh, maybe I can send the same email to my next client. So just save that email in like some kind of template for yourself. Same with any checklists you send or like a list of things that you need from your client. This is going to make you seem even more experienced and professional because these lists will be more tried and true and complete. You can also share wins on your social media. So I don't know what social media you want to use. I have a class called Bookkeeper Marketing Coach if you want to know more about how to get clients. But I talk about how I started on Facebook. That was a while ago. But I would share like, oh, look, my client just got this box of receipts, or, oh, look, I just reconciled my first client. Oh, I got hired by this client. You know, kind of tell your story on social media. Now that might be LinkedIn, it might be Instagram. If you have a little bit of that online presence, that is really helpful. Let me know in the comments where you're at in your bookkeeping business, and thank you guys so much for watching all the way till the end.